Hey there, Hoshpap here, back for some more Genshin Impact, and today we're going to be doing more of the Legend of the Vagabond Sword Event. Although it's going to be slightly different today, we're actually going to go through all 3 bosses in one video, as I thought it best to do this because we've already been through these 3 before, and it's not that interesting to go through them again with just slightly different modifiers. So how this will work is I'll just quickly scroll through all of the various modifiers and difficulty settings I'll be doing for each boss. Then I'll be going into the boss fight itself. There might not be a lot of commentary between boss fights, but that's okay. I'll add a few words here and there to let you guys know about anything I found interesting about these bosses or the challenges in particular. But since we've beaten these guys before, the fights aren't too different from the first time, as the modifiers are the only things that are different. If certain ones are turned on, they do change how you can approach the battle. And any bits of downtime will of course just be cut out, as it's just not very interesting to watch. Right, well the first boss is the Primo Geovishap. We decided to go with Ganyu, Zhongli and Noelle, 2 of which have damage increase bonuses to them, although we're not going to be using them as DPS. I took 2 shielded characters as I just didn't really want to take a lot of damage, and of course Noelle can heal the party anyway if I need to, which with 2 shield characters shouldn't be too often. We'll see about that though. Then we decided to go with Ganyu as she's great at dealing damage, and then Zhangling as she pairs very nicely with being able to give Ganyu lots of elemental reactions, especially when they use their burst together. Pyronado and also Celestial Shower pair very nicely as they actually have quite a long duration on them as well. Lots of opportunity to melt. Now what I found is dealing damage to this boss is obviously important as you want to destroy it as soon as possible. But most of the damage actually comes from you just putting your own shield on, it attacking you, and then that deals a lot of damage to the boss when it uses its special thing. So as long as we time those, we just have to last long enough for it to eventually kill itself. We're going to keep dealing damage regardless though, as it means we can finish the boss off quicker and we don't have to wait as long in between special attacks. Now even with 2 shield characters I found that I wasn't timing it perfectly, or it was actually just breaking through the shields and I forgot to apply it, so that was a bit of a mistake on my part. But in the end we beat the boss very easily and quite quickly too. I think if I did this again I actually wouldn't take 2 shield characters. I think Zhongli was more than enough to deal with the Primo Geovishap's onslaught. Just needed to dodge a lot more and then keep an eye on whether the shield was destroyed or not. I find it's a bit less noticeable when using Ganyu because of all of the special effects when she's charging up her bow, but that might just be me. Right, now onto the second boss, Lament Bitter Hate 2. Here are all of the difficulty modifiers that we chose for this boss. And this is our team. We decided to go with Keqing, Ganyu, Zhongli and Barbara. Now there's one interesting modifier that we picked, which is the opponents that are frozen will regenerate 1% of HP per second, which made Ganyu, you know, a bit of a bad choice if she can't burst down the enemy's health enough, and she definitely deals enough damage to kill them before they can regenerate to full, but it just takes a lot longer. And with having the pyro resistance increased by 50%, I couldn't take another support character that could help her in that department. Now I could have taken Fischl, but I did decide to take Keqing as she was a good source of electro damage and doesn't really pair at all with Ganyu, but we'll see if it works. She can do the up close damage and Ganyu can do the range stuff. And then finally, as you can see, Zhongli for shielding and then Barbara for healing. I mean, Zhongli is going to be like a staple of all these teams. He's just too good not to take. Especially against bosses like this, you just don't want to die. Now, we actually did decide to turn on the timer this time. Maybe we shouldn't have done that. We didn't make it last time. But I'm thinking we might be able to do it. It's a very slow battle anyway. Right, the enemy water creatures are spawning, so I decided to use Ganyu's burst. I've taken down the health of some of them a bit, so hopefully that will finish them off. But the squirrels are still at pretty much max health. But the damage of the Celestial Shower, plus me just pelting them in the face with arrows, should be enough to defeat them. Now I will say this isn't the first time trying this boss. I did try it before, but what happened was that these kept on regenerating too quickly, I found, and then that just delayed the time so much. So I'm glad I was able to find a way to get rid of them quite easily, and quickly. Now while we're off to a really good start damage-wise at the beginning, unfortunately this last stage just seems to really slow down the amount of opportunities you have to damage the boss itself. Kind of disappointing. We were very close to making it with the time allowance, but we actually missed it by a bit. But that's okay, we can make up the difference in points elsewhere, especially on the last day. That has a lot of points you can get. But we beat it, and we got most of the points we needed, so we're just going to move on. On to the final of these 3 bosses, going to be battling the Dual Megukenki. Now, once again, going to be going with the same party as I did for the Oceanid. Although we're going to be swapping out one character, going to be changing Ganyu for official. Although we're still keeping Ketching, and you might be wondering why, and I'll tell that story. So when I was doing these videos, I actually recorded the final day first, which is interesting, I know. We can do that, we can do things in a different order. And then I went back to these, and I found that Ketching worked quite well for me anyway, against those two bosses, as she has a sword that can heal her, and that was pretty cool. It meant that I could survive, as they deal a lot of damage. I would have loved to have gone with the recommended Hu Tao plus Bennett, Zhongli and another character, but yeah, it just wasn't working out very well for me. The damage was good, but how I've built mine is just not up to those crazy levels that the other people have. That, and also I found that I was taking too much damage. I don't know whether that's just because Zhongli's health is not as high as it could be, or I just wasn't as good at dodging some of the attacks, even with the shield on, and it just ended up wiping me out completely. It doesn't help with that particular character, where she's always low on health as her attacks burn away her health. So yeah, those fights were quite messy. But this one worked a lot better for me. It would have actually been really annoying to take Hu Tao into this anyway, because we've got the modifier when the active character's health is below 50%, attack is decreased by 25%. Maybe that could have just been mitigated by either food buffs or just because of the raw damage output, but yeah, this worked good enough for me. And then that's what's cool about this game, you can have lots of different strategies by using all different characters. You don't have to just use the cookie cutter meta ones. I mean, it might make the gameplay a bit more difficult, but still. Another thing we decided to do was take off the timer but increase the health of both, so the battle will take a bit longer to do. However, it will mean that we can get all of the bonuses without worrying. It just means we have to survive a whole lot longer than we would have before. Now, of course, having two Electro characters and then not really having anyone else to create any good reactions means that reaction damage is very low. We're just relying on really raw Electro and some physical damage. It's okay though, official helps a lot, and Ketching isn't a pushover either. Now, they definitely aren't the craziest numbers that you've seen, and a lot of the characters I have deal way more. But what they don't have is self-healing, okay, and this boss is just horrible. So you might think Barbara's a mistake to take, as the boss's cryo will freeze you. And you know what, in some ways you're right, I thought the exact same thing. And I did get frozen quite a few times using this character with this boss. However, that wasn't all the time, and being able to dodge a lot of the cryo attacks, having the healing, like the direct healing, instead of something like Bennett's healing tied to his burst, I found that was actually really good at keeping me alive mixed with Ketching's attacks. Plus, obviously, her elemental burst is like group-wide healing, and she can revive someone as I have her at C6, so that is also very useful. Of course, getting frozen isn't fun in this game, but it was a small price to pay to be able to actually live through this boss and destroy it. Ketching's elemental burst is also really good, as when they're about to do one of their big wind-up attacks, you can use it before it lands, and obviously you're invincible when doing elemental bursts with 5-star characters. You have a bit of invulnerability for a short amount of time, so you can use it to really get a free dodge. And because hers charges really quickly, that's even better. And with a lot of battling, a lot of elemental bursts, and some time later, we have beaten these two bosses, and that's all 3 bosses done. We got a score of 4,350, that's okay, yeah, that's just over the amount we need. And that brings us to the end of the video. We beat all 3 bosses in around 17 minutes. That's the unedited footage length, although what you guys are seeing is definitely shorter than that. With the skills we learned here, we can definitely take on the final challenge, although we've already done that. But still, we can take it on next time. So, thanks for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video where, yeah, we'll be definitely beating the final boss of this particular challenge.